Welcome back to Sip and Talk. So glad you're here with us.
Absolutely. Grab your favorite beverage because today we're diving into something that's incredibly important.
Yeah, and honestly, a bit heavy maybe, but we promise to keep it real, relatable.
Totally. We're going to try and give you a few aha moments along the way.
That's the plan.
Yeah.
We're talking about why democracy is just so incredibly difficult to achieve.
And sometimes, even harder to actually keep hold of.
Right. It's not just some, abstract thing in a book.
Yeah.
It really affects real lives, real countries. We've got quite a bit to unpack.
Exactly. We're sort of looking at three big areas today. First up, how different countries actually got their democracies. Spoiler, it wasn't always smooth sailing.
Not at all. Then we'll look at how some big players, thinking of China here, talk about their own, let's say, versions of democracy.
Yeah, what that actually means. And finally, we're going to get into some maybe deeper thinking. What does democracy really mean to us?
And maybe, are we getting a bit old? Because talking about how hard it was to get, well, maybe some folks don't even realize the struggle anymore.
Could be. So get ready for some insights and maybe a few really moments.
Okay, so let's just jump right in. Why is democracy, globally speaking, such a tough nut to crack?
Well, okay, at its absolute core, democracy means power comes from us, the people.
Right. Not from a king, not an army general, not some dictator figure.
Exactly. And that shift, that fundamental change, it means the people who have the power have to, let go of it. Some or all of it.
Which, let's be honest, is like asking someone to just give up their favorite comfy chair. Not going to happen easily.
Not usually. And it also means people, ordinary people, have to be brave enough. Brave enough to speak up, demand things.
Like free speech, the right to vote, quote's weight is up. Basic stuff we might take for granted.
And then society as a whole has to learn to actually listen to everyone, even the voices you really disagree with, instead of just, shutting them down.
Historically, that whole process, it's usually messy. Really messy.
Oh, yeah. We're talking wars, revolutions, brutal crackdowns. Sometimes things just fail completely. It's a journey, often soaked in blood, sweat, and tears.
Let's look at some examples. Maybe start with Taiwan.
Good idea.
Yeah.
Taiwan's story is, quite something. After the KMT government moved there in 1949, they had this long, dark period, the White Terror.
Right, from 1950 to 1987.
Exactly. And during that time, thousands were arrested, some executed, just for what they said or even thought.
Sounds absolutely terrifying, just for words.
It was. But then things started to change. 1987, martial law was lifted. That was huge.
So that allowed new political parties, independent newspapers.
Yes. And then by 1996, they had their first proper direct presidential election. It took immense sacrifice, decades of it, for them to get to where they are now, being able to criticize the government, vote freely.
Okay, now contrast that with, say, the United States. You might think we were just born democratic in 1776, right?
Yeah, but not quite. That's definitely not the whole story.
Not really the full picture.
I mean, when the U.S. first kicked out the British king, who could actually vote?
Oh, right. It was basically white guys who owned land. Pretty exclusive club.
Very exclusive. Our own history shows it wasn't instant democracy for everyone. We had the Civil War, 1860s.
Terrible cost. About 750,000 lives lost, largely over abolishing slavery.
And even after that, well into the 1960s, African Americans still faced huge barriers, systemic barriers, just trying to vote.
It took the whole civil rights movement, figures like Martin Luther King Jr., more struggle, more bloodshed.
Exactly. To get closer to what we'd call full democracy. It was step by step, hard fought, every inch of the way.
Okay, different story again. Japan.
Yeah, Japan's path was quite unique. After the Meiji Restoration in 1868, that period of big change, they did get a parliament, a constitution.
But the real power was still with the military and the emperor.
Pretty much. And leading up to World War II, Japan was very militaristic. They suppressed free speech, invaded other countries.
Then they lost the war, 1945.
Yeah.
And the U.S. stepped in.
Right. The U.S. played a huge role. They helped write a new constitution, basically pushed for a parliamentary democracy, guaranteed free speech.
And the emperor became more of a figurehead.
Exactly. So for Japan, democracy wasn't really an internal uprising. It was more a result of defeat, shaped heavily by an outside force.
Germany.
Yeah.
Now there's a roller coaster.
Oh, definitely a wild ride. After World War I, they had the Weimar Republic. Pretty liberal for its time, actually.
But then, 1933... The Nazis.
Yeah, and the really chilling part is how they used democratic processes, cleverly twisted them to destroy democracy from within. Hitler just, boom, abolished parliament, set up a dictatorship.
Which led straight to World War II. Horrific.
And after the war, Germany was split. West Germany, with a lot of help from the US and UK, rebuilt its democracy, really focused on things like an independent judiciary.
Meanwhile, East Germany became communist under Soviet influence.
Right. Until 1989, East Germans protesting, tearing down the Berlin Wall, that unification moment.
Finally, a unified, democratic Germany again. So their story is collapse, defeat, rebuilding, and then people power demanding it back.
It really covers a lot of ground.
Okay, now, for one that's particularly poignant, maybe, China, 1989, Tiananmen Square.
Ah, yes. Tiananmen. Many people will have heard of the protests. It started mostly as a student movement.
Commemorating a former leader, protesting corruption.
But it grew fast, quickly turned into calls for free speech, for actual democratic reform. Students occupied the square. They were drawing on the spirit of an earlier movement, the May 4th movement.
And there was some debate inside the party. Some leaders were maybe open to talking.
There was. Zhao Ziyang, for instance, he apparently favored dialogue. But ultimately, the hardliners, Deng Xiaoping, Li Peng, they pushed for a military crackdown.
And on the night of June 3rd, going into June 4th, the army moved in.
Panks. Yeah. Hundreds, maybe thousands, died. We still don't know the true numbers. The government just doesn't acknowledge the scale of it.
I remember hearing about a military officer. A reporter asked about the violence, and he just said something like, "Because it's my duty." Chilling.
Just brutal. It became this stark symbol of authoritarian power crushing its own citizens. After that, China clamped down hard. Free speech, news, academic freedom, all suppressed.
A really tragic missed opportunity for democracy there.
Absolutely. So when you look at all these stories, Taiwan's sacrifice, America's long struggle, Japan's post-war path, Germany's ups and downs, China's crushed hopes.
The one clear takeaway is democracy is definitely not a free lunch.
Never. It always comes with a price, usually a steep one.
Exactly. And okay, that leads us right into the next big question. If it's such a struggle, how do some regimes try to, well, redefine it, make it sound like they do have it, even when it looks nothing like what most of us recognize?
Right. Let's talk about labels, because let's face it, no government likes being called totalitarian or dictatorial.
Not great for the image, is it? Especially on the world stage.
Not at all. And the Chinese Communist Party, the CCP, they really don't like those labels. They want to project something different, more modern, maybe, legitimate.
So what's their move? They came up with their own term.
It did. Chinese-style democracy.
And it even has a fancy official name now.
Yep. Whole process people's democracy. Xi Jinping made it official back in 2021.
Sounds impressive. So what's the pitch? How do they sell it?
Okay, so the argument goes something like this. First, they say, look, we have a People's Congress system. People participate through their reps.
Okay.
Then they point to local elections. See? Grassroots democracy, happening in communities, businesses, villages.
Right. What else?
They talk a lot about whole process participation, meaning people supposedly have a voice at every stage, making policy, carrying it out, even overseeing it.
And a big one is always, hey, democracy isn't one size fits all. The Western way isn't the only way.
Exactly. Plus, they often argue that stability is paramount and that, economic development is the real democracy. Basically, our way gets things done for the people.
Okay, on the surface, some of that might sound kind of reasonable.
It can, yeah. But let's pull back the curtain a bit, look closer.
So those local elections, for village committees or whatever, you can vote, maybe?
You might cast a ballot, sure, but the candidates, they're almost always screened, approved by the party beforehand.
So you're not exactly choosing from a wide open field, more like picking between two approved apples.
Pretty much. And those People's Congress representatives you mentioned?
Yeah.
The vast majority are party members. So they represent the people, technically, but they can't actually challenge the party's fundamental direction or big decisions.
They say they encourage suggestions, right?
They do, but, and this is a huge but, only if you don't cross the red lines. Like, don't question Xi Jinping, don't question the party's leadership.
So you can suggest maybe changing the tablecloths in the restaurant, but definitely don't criticize the head chef or the menu itself.
Excellent analogy. That's precisely it. And this is where the really core differences with, global democracies become super clear.
Like free speech.
Huge difference. In most democracies, you can criticize leaders, even harshly. You can form new parties. In China's system, criticize Xi, you could be looking at charges like subverting the state.
Wow, okay. And what about multiple parties competing?
Well, in many democracies, you have real choices on the ballot. Different parties actually competing for power. In China, it's the Communist Party in charge, period.
Yeah.
Any other parties are often called flower vase parties.
Just for decoration? No real power?
Basically. Then there's checks and balances, separate branches of government keeping each other in line.
Executive, legislative, judicial.
In China, the party controls everything. The courts, the media, the Congress. There's no real separation of powers to check the party itself.
Independent media. Forget about it.
Largely, yes. State media dominates. Censorship is intense. Journalists who step out of line can get arrested.
And leaders can't be voted out.
Well, the top leader now has no term limits. They can stay on, potentially, for life. Unlike systems where leaders face regular elections and can lose.
So when people call it old wine in new bottles,
it's because it has the appearance of some democratic features, elections, representatives, suggestions.
But the substance isn't there. You can't vote for real opposition.
Right. You can't speak freely if it challenges the core power structure.
Your representatives can't actually challenge the party's big decisions.
Exactly. The whole system is designed around one non-negotiable principle. The party's rule cannot be fundamentally challenged.
It's like that analogy you hear sometimes, giving a caged bird some candy.
Yeah, you can choose the flavor, but there's only one flavor, and more importantly, the bird can't choose to leave the cage.
Might not even know it's in a cage.
Precisely. So the bottom line is the CCP doesn't want those negative labels. Totalitarian, dictatorial, bad for business, bad for legitimacy.
So they created this Chinese-style democracy concept. It's like packaging.
It's a way to package a control mechanism, make people feel sort of involved maybe, and make the outside world think twice before criticizing too hard.
But most of the world sees through it, right? A system with no real choice, no real criticism allowed, leaders you can't replace.
How can you genuinely call that democracy? It just doesn't fit the definition most people understand. And that leads us into some even deeper waters.
Like, if China has its version, are there other places playing this language game?
Oh, absolutely. This isn't unique to China, this idea of, fake democracy, or maybe managed democracy.
Where else do we see it?
Well, think about Russia. Putin's sovereign democracy. He never seems to lose an election, does he? And his main opponents often have unfortunate accidents or end up in jail.
Right, or Iran.
Iran's theocratic democracy. They have elections, yes, but candidates have to be vetted and approved by religious clerics first, so the field is limited from the start.
And Singapore, sometimes called a guided democracy.
Yeah, they have elections, very clean ones usually, but the same party's been in power forever, and opposition parties face, let's say, significant hurdles.
It really makes you wonder, when democracy just becomes this buzzword, this label you slap on things for PR, what's actually left of the meaning?
And how does that kind of language manipulation just mess with people's understanding of what democracy even is?
Which brings up another tricky, maybe uncomfortable idea. Do people actually want democracy? Always?
That's a tough one. You definitely hear people, maybe even in authoritarian states, say things like, look, I'd rather have safety, stability, economic growth. Democracy seems messy.
Yeah. Why do some people seem okay with authoritarian rule? Is it just information control? Manufactured fear?
Or is it partly because democracy can feel like too much trouble sometimes? All the arguing, the slow pace.
Think about how state media in places like China might portray democracy linking it to chaos or unemployment or gun violence in the U.S.?
Does democracy need certain conditions, like a certain level of education maybe, or economic stability to really work well? Big questions.
And it's crucial to remember, democracy isn't like flipping a switch and you're done. It's not set it and forget it.
Not at all. It can actually go backwards. It can erode, even collapse.
We've seen worrying signs. Hungary under Orban moving towards authoritarianism.
Yeah.
Turkey with Erdogan cracking down hard on free speech.
Even here in the U.S., the Capitol riot on January 6th. That was a huge shock to the system, a wake-up call.
It reminds you of that saying, the enemies of democracy often come from within democracy itself.
That is a chilling thought, isn't it? How things like fake news spreading like wildfire online.
Those social media echo chambers where you only hear voices you agree with.
And extreme political polarization, where the other side isn't just wrong, they're seen as, evil. How do all those things chip away at it?
And when people get really disillusioned with how democracy is working or not working, do those simple strongman slogans start sounding tempting?
And related to that, the CCP is just incredibly skilled at what you might call Orwellian language, using words to mean the opposite of what they seem.
It's not just redefining democracy, it's everything.
Right. It's not suppression, it's stability maintenance.
Not censorship, but guidance.
Not human rights violations, just governing according to law.
And those camps in Xinjiang, not concentration camps, they're vocational education training centers.
It's straight out of 1984 or Animal Farm. Language used to control thought, to make lies seem normal, to make society, as Orwell put it, accustomed to lies.
Makes you wonder if those books aren't fiction anymore in some places.
It really does. And okay, maybe the biggest, toughest question of all. Is the cost, the often painful, chaotic cost of transitioning to democracy, is it actually worth it?
When you look at Taiwan, South Korea, South Africa, Poland, Ukraine, they all went through immense suffering, upheaval, violence to get their democracies.
So is that price worth paying? Or would some people, maybe deep down, prefer to be, for lack of a better term, happy slaves? Just have quiet and order.
How do you even make people actively want freedom, want democracy, instead of just passively accepting whatever's handed down?
That phrase, freedom isn't free, it hits differently when you think about Tiananmen Square.
Or the White Terror in Taiwan. Or the ongoing struggles you see in Hong Kong.
Maybe we need to make it more tangible. Maybe ask young people, what if you couldn't just go online and say whatever you want? Couldn't joke about the president?
Couldn't criticize the government without being genuinely afraid? What would your life actually feel like?
Or, I don't know, a fun quiz. Are you more like a freedom fighter or an obedience machine? Maybe that's silly, but...
No, but the point is, we need to find ways to make this invisible freedom feel real. Because if you haven't lived through martial law, if you haven't actually lost your freedom...
You might just assume it's always going to be there, like the air you breathe. You don't notice it until it's gone.
And philosophically, is freedom an instinct? Something deep inside us? Or is it more like a luxury good that some societies prioritize and others don't?
And psychologically, how does that group obedience thing work? Those Milgram experiments you mentioned earlier showing how easily people obey authority. That's a powerful force for authoritarian regimes.
Yeah. Just historically, imagine, what if China had gone democratic in 1989? How different would the world be today?
Wow. That's a huge what if. And maybe the flip side, with China's crazy advanced AI surveillance now, the propaganda machine, does that make genuine democracy even less likely there now?
Just some heavy food for thought to chew on after our chat today.
Definitely. Well, that was quite the journey we took, wasn't it?
It really was, from the often brutal birth of democracies to some very creative ways of redefining the word.
It really does make you stop and appreciate the freedoms we might sometimes take for granted.
It truly does. And, talking about how hard it was to get democracy, does that mean we're getting old?
Laughs, maybe.
Yeah.
Because maybe a lot of younger folks just haven't seen that struggle firsthand.
Huh. Could be. But hey, it's important stuff to know, vital knowledge for everyone, really. And we hope this Sip and Talk helped you connect some dots.
Absolutely. And hey, if you enjoyed this chat about why democracy is so darn difficult, please do hit that subscribe button for Sip and Talk, wherever you get your podcasts.
Yeah, please do. And also, for something maybe a little lighter memes, music, wine tasting, travel vlogs, you should definitely check out our good friend Mickey's YouTube channel. It's called Mickeytolife.
Laughs. Yeah, Mickey's great. You won't regret it.
All right. That's all for this Sip and Talk. Thanks so much for joining us.
We'll catch you next time.